It's race week once again, and it's our first European race of the season. We are at round 4 and we are in Imola, Italy for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. You might also hear it referred to as the San Marino Grand Prix by some old school fans as well. That was its previous name way back when. Imola has a long history in F1 stretching all the way back to 1980 and is most famous for its run as the San Marino Grand Prix, as I mentioned earlier, and that came to an end in 2006, and we didn't see it again until the COVID hit 2020 schedule, where F1 scrambled to replace races that were dropping out. At this point, Imola made a surprise return as the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, and we've seen it ever since. And in fact, we will continue to see it up until 2025 now. It's a 5-kilometer track set in the beautiful Italian countryside and shares similarities with the surrounding landscape. It's a fast flowing track with plenty of elevation changes, but it does just have one DRS zone for us, so it'll be interesting to see how overtaking works here. We'll be going for a total of 63 laps on race day. Imola is of course famous for being the race that in 1994 took the lives of both Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger, which still weighs heavily on the sport to this day, so expect to see mentions of that and potentially a memorial as well. As I mentioned previously, there is some recent history that we can pull from. Our last time out we had Lewis Hamilton on pole, but it was actually Max Verstappen who won the race from 3rd place on the grid. Hamilton ended up in 2nd place and Lando Norris took the final podium position. If you saw the race last year, or maybe Drive to Survive as well, you might remember this as the race where George Russell and Valtteri Bottas collided, and that was the major talking point coming away from the race last year, as they were both vying for that seat at Mercedes. Obviously, George Russell is in that seat now, so I don't think we're going to be seeing any repeats of that again this time out. What we can expect is the usual shake-up we've seen this season, where Ferrari move forward on the grid, Mercedes move back, but that midfield is really ripe for a shake-up right now. Could McLaren repeat their heroics of last year? That would really be something. The big news coming into this weekend is that it will be our first sprint race of 2022. This will be interesting to see how they go in the new cars this year. Structurally, there is no differences from the sprint race last year, with qualifying on Friday, sprint race on Saturday, and then full race on Sunday. I made a video explaining all about sprint races last year, so I'll include that in the description if anybody wants to check that out, if they're still a little bit fuzzy on what sprint races are. Other than that, there's not been too much news from the week-long break, to be honest. We are expecting a few teams to potentially bring some upgrades to this race. I think AlphaTauri have definitely confirmed something on their car, but Ferrari have said they won't. Mercedes and McLaren also said don't expect anything from them. Everyone else, staying quiet. They don't want to tip their hands. The other news comes in the form of team complaints. This week, 3 teams started talking to the FIA about the legality of the Haas car and the Haas-Ferrari partnership. This has been something that's been talked about a little bit over the years. Obviously, Haas and Ferrari very cozy for the entire time Haas have been in the sport. But after the whole Mercedes Racing Point copy fiasco, and now seeing the similarities between the Haas and Ferrari cars, questions are being asked. Questions that we certainly won't get the answers to this weekend, but you might see some talk of it over the course as we go on. Right, time to think about my driver and team to watch. I think the team this week is going to be pretty obvious. It's got to be Ferrari, hasn't it? They're on home soil and leading the championship. It's going to be electrifying for them. For driver to watch, I'm going to go with a bit of a long shot, and I'm going to say Pierre Gasly this week. Let's not forget that this is also a home race for AlphaTauri. They have said they're going to bring upgrades, and they've shown up the past couple years at this track. So, will this be their big breakout race that they need this season? What do you guys think? Are you looking forward to the race this weekend? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and over at social media at Race Report Pod, and I will catch you on Sunday for the race review.